Hello, I'm Doug White. Welcome to NBC 10 Timelines. When he first announced his candidacy for the United States Senate, many people felt that this quiet young man was ill-suited for the rough-and-tumble world of politics. But Claiborne Pell created a remarkable legacy during a long and very distinguished career.
Childhood is a time of innocence and exploration, a time when a boy can dream of what role he might someday play in this world. Claiborne Pell was born into a life of wealth, privilege, and comfort, but like many of his ancestors, he chose to follow the difficult path of public service. In doing so, he would prove beyond all doubt that one determined individual could make a difference. As a senator, the patience and diligence he applied to crafting legislation would earn him the respect of his peers. He would serve his constituents with a modest and quiet style that seemed a breath of fresh air in the world of politics. Opponents might enjoy his occasional awkward moments, but he possessed the rare ability to laugh at himself. When a political rival called him a cream puff, Pell announced the endorsement of a bakers' union and went on to win the election. This shy and thoughtful child would help draft the Charter of the United Nations, secure a role in our society for the arts, and extend the promise of higher education to millions of citizens. His goal, he often said, was not to be a show horse, but rather a workhorse. Throughout his long and extraordinary life, Claiborne Pell would make good on that promise. Pell graduated from Princeton and Columbia before serving in the Coast Guard during World War II. Following in his father's footsteps, he worked for the State Department and was assigned as a Foreign Service officer in Czechoslovakia. As the Soviet Union tightened its grip on the country, refugees began to flee in panic. His wife, Nuala Pell, recalls those desperate and dangerous times.
He used to run around a field and burn the papers from the State Department to be sure they weren't stolen out of his office. It was a very difficult time for people who were considered anti-communist.
Pell and his family were ordered to leave. Risking their own safety, they planned to smuggle their Czechoslovakian translator out of the country.
And Claiborne had said to him, "I don't want to know, but I will leave the trunk of the car open tonight. And in the morning, before we leave, I'll shut it. I'm not going to look to see if anybody's there or not."
Crossing the border became a battle of nerves.
And that's when the man, Spiro, in the back of the car started to groan. I remember singing at the top of my lungs with the secretary and the soldiers, anything we could think of, just to distract them.
With luck and courage, the Pell family and their stowaway slipped through the Iron Curtain. In 1960, Pell decided to seek a place in the United States Senate. Before he could run in the general election, he would have to win Rhode Island's Democratic primary. Experts felt that Pell had little chance. His opponent, former Governor Dennis Roberts, had the blessing of the party.
They have assured me of my ability to be elected.
Despite his lack of political experience, Pell won the primary and the election. There was something about this conscientious young man that appealed to voters.
The hardest thing for him was when he decided he had to go on television. I just remember the first few times it was really hard. He was very stiff.
Fellow Rhode Islanders, if ever there was a time when the American flag should be displayed, it is this armistice, this Veterans Day.
In 1962, Pell joined congressional leaders on a fact-finding mission to South Vietnam. He met President Diem and listened courteously, but with growing concern to Diem's political philosophy. The experience would deeply affect Pell's view of America's controversial role in that country.
He was the first person, I'm not sure if it was Congress, it was certainly in the Senate, to come out against the war in Vietnam. And it was something we all agreed on as a family. We were encouraged to make any kind of protest, to join any kind of protest.
A friendship developed between President Kennedy, a frequent visitor to Newport, and the Pell family. In a cruel twist of fate, Kennedy was killed on Pell's 45th birthday.
And Claiborne got a birthday letter from him, which had obviously been sent 2 or 3 days before, on the day.
The assassination brought scenes of heart-wrenching grief to America. At times it seemed too much to bear, even for a man born into the world of diplomatic protocol.
It was the first time I ever saw my father cry was at John Kennedy's funeral, because I was standing next to him and there were tears just streaming down his face. He didn't move, but the tears were just streaming down his face.
And will be peopled by men of goodwill. Thank you very much.
President Johnson signed legislation sponsored by Pell that created the National Endowment for the Arts and the Humanities. It was a stunning achievement for a young senator, one that would change the cultural landscape of the country for years to come. Re-elected, Pell continued to build his record of accomplishments. But in 1972, he faced his greatest challenge.
Without the leadership in the Senate or the House,
John Chafee, a former governor of Rhode Island, launched a vigorous campaign for Pell's place in the Senate. The voters were faced with a difficult choice between two of the most popular and well-respected politicians in the state. Old family friends like Ted Kennedy were called in to help build enthusiasm for Pell's re-election.
Or works in a business or attends a university.
Pell reminded voters of his record on the environment and education, but he was behind in the polls, and for the first time, the prospect of defeat loomed on the horizon. With grit and determination, Pell moved ahead in the final days of the campaign. He won the election and returned to Washington. One of the senator's greatest achievements was the program that provided federal subsidies for millions of college students. The money came to be known as Pell Grants.
I run into people all the time that were or are recipients of Pell Grants, and it's made the difference between them staying in school and not. He's enormously proud of that.
Throughout his career in the Senate, Claiborne Pell earned a reputation for his steadfast belief that politics could be an instrument of change for the betterment of mankind. His efforts on behalf of education, public transportation, and the pursuit of peace will form a lasting legacy. But perhaps it was the sense of dignity and decency that this exceptional man brought to public office that will be remembered most fondly. In 1995, Pell announced that he would not seek a 7th term in the Senate. It was not an easy decision for a man who had dedicated his life to public service.
He decided against running, and he was very sad to leave the Senate. It really upset him, but I think he misses it a great deal.
Despite being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, Pell remains active and committed to improving the world around him.
Well, luckily, he's always been a positive person. I mean, he's always upbeat, and along with this disease often goes depression. I don't see that much in Claiborne. He does his best to make the best of it.
Those who know him say that such determined commitment is an integral part of this remarkable man's nature.
Claiborne is made of tenacity. He doesn't listen to anything if he's trying to get someplace or get something done. He just barrels on through, and that's, I think, probably what made him successful.
Many believe that the success Claiborne Pell has achieved in his life has been a blessing to his state, his nation, and the world.
Claiborne Pell, a man whose career defined the difference between a politician and a statesman.